Okay, so the people that are loaning the money are making money off of you through the interest, right? And then somebody else came up with a number between 1 and 5. 4, did I hear? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Taylor, debt is not a privilege. What was meant by the front end of that statement? So Caleb kind of took this. Debt's a product. They're trying to make money. They're selling loans and paying interest. What's the front end of that? Debt is not a privilege.
I think it's more along the lines that debt is something that you can choose to do. You know, it's you fall into, but it's not because you're really necessarily meant.
Okay.
Don't have the privilege of
Okay, you want to add on? Sure.
I think it was more along the lines of like when he was talking about how good they are at marketing, where he made it feel like you're in a club. He says you're asking them to give you debt, pretty much.
Yeah, so kind of you're a step above the rest, right? You're privileged to be asked to join the family or whatever, right? And so they make you feel good about having that offer, that that's the right way to be, that's the best way to be, whatever. That's all just part of the marketing of it, of making you want it more because you're at this kind of higher level status. Well, I have $10,000 that I can spend at any given point in time with this thing, right? So I can go into debt at any point in time. I'm, by the way, making this up. I don't have a credit card personally, so I do have for some of my business stuff. But I can go into credit. I can go into debt. $10,000. I could go walk into a store and buy a flat screen TV and a new refrigerator and a range. $8,000. I have a $10,000 limit. Is that some power? Is that a form of power? It certainly is, right? I mean, it's definitely a form of power. You have command over material things more so than you did before, right? The ability to purchase stuff. You gain some people might say economic power, or purchasing power, whatever. It's certainly a form of power that the bank is able to grant you. And that can make you feel good. It does make you feel good. I've had it. I had one card that hired us, but for sure $50,000 credit limit. Like to have that, it's like I could go spend $50,000 like that. That's in power. I don't want to downplay the seduction game that they're doing. That feels pretty good to be able to go buy whatever you want, whether it's a $10,000 limit or $20,000 limit or $50,000 limit, right? That is empowering. And so what we're talking about in this class is to kind of call that to your attention. Don't be seduced by their marketing. They're really trying to sell you something. If you ring up $10,000 worth of stuff, you're going to have to pay it back. And if you haven't been doing your zero-based budget, you might not be able to. You're going to owe them some interest, right? It's just a game to them. They don't really have any vested thing in making you feel good about that. They're just selling a product. So that's not a privilege. That is a product. Any other comments there? Questions? 25% of the families have a negative net worth. What was net worth again? Good. You got that right quick, man. Good job. So the dollar value of what you own minus the dollar value of what you owe, right? So at any point in time, that is what you're doing. So if 25% of American families have a negative net worth, 25%, that's high, right? So there's a lot of broke people walking around. They have, if we took all the dollar value of their assets minus their liabilities, they fell into that empowering trap. They did buy the new refrigerator and range and flat screen TV, put it on here, and made that equation go upside down. Thinking that, oh, I've got future income, I'll just pay it later, the monthly payments are low, I've got a good job, it's only $200 a month, I can pay it off, this will all work out in the end, right? And then that's the game. That's the debt product, right? And they've got you hooked. And so clearly this is evidence that these guys are doing a good job selling the product. Okay. So let's see. Discussion question. I wanted to kind of hear about your. It's always different for everybody on families and stuff. Let's take this up here. Out of focus, maybe. There we go. Okay. So how about you versus your parents? I've seen kind of some convergence over the years, but you know, Dave talked about the video, the history of credit. Did it surprise you that credit, the way we've been accustomed to it, hasn't been around that long? I guess for you guys it might seem like ancient history, but approximately what decade did credit start to take off with credit cards and stuff? Was it approximately? You don't have to be perfect. Yeah, the 60s is when it really started, and then the 70s, you know, slowly started to gain steam. So we go back that far, we're talking 50 years or so. So it's not like it's been around for the 250 years our country's been around or something, right? So there's definitely more of a cash-mindedness to American culture prior to the evolution of these cards. And so how many of you feel like your views of credit are in line with your parents? Show of hands.
Do you mean by
Like if they like to take on debt, you take on debt, or they like to take on debt, but I don't like to take on debt would be not. So like, are you guys kind of thinking about similarly on taking on debt? Are you in line with your parents' thinking? Show of hands, you think you're roughly in line with your parents' way of thinking?
Yeah, my parents don't have credit cards either.
They don't have credit. That's what I mean. That's kind of the discussion I wanted to have. So Brady, what's your situation as far as parents versus you?
Well, like my parents use credit cards for like small things that they know they can pay off, like their credit score and stuff.
Okay. How many of you have been, I'm glad you brought up the credit score, we're going to talk a lot about that later. How many of you have been told you got to use a credit card to build up your credit score? All right, so that's a pretty common line. Let me just throw it at you a little differently. What do you need to build your credit score up to do? Why do you need good credit? Caleb? So is that in line with this program that we're doing? So do credit scores really matter? Now, so that's a little bit of a myth we'll get to later in the chapter. But since you brought up credit score, and that's kind of a normal thing, there's lots of things you can do without any credit. Now, you don't want to. That doesn't mean you want to trash your credit, right, or anything. But building up your credit's kind of certainly a big question mark. So let's see. So how many people have a credit card? So half the room, roughly. Okay. And so have you used it as an emergency fund, or does your parents pay it off? Tell me, what's your relationship? Let me give you a little background on me too. So I started collecting credit cards more or less at age 15. My parents had to sign on for the first one. I wanted to kind of do, maybe it was age 16, I can't remember, but I was starting to read books and tapes on becoming a millionaire and building up my credit and buying real estate with no money down. You guys heard of those types of things? Buy real estate with no money down. So I was trying to do that, and my mom and dad signed on to my first credit card, and then slowly but surely, as I got into college, I was able to get more credit card offers because I did build up credit. And so at one point in my life, I had 18 credit cards or something like that. So it was kind of fun playing the shell game, 0% interest, and then you can kind of shuffle it around from one card to the next. So my point in kind of bringing that up is that it's okay if you guys have a credit card at this point, but what you're going to hear from Ramsey and now from me is that maybe you should consider cutting it up and not using it and not having it as the go-to thing just in case something happens or just to build up your credit. So be prepared for that. I just wanted to tell you that. I'm not going to beat you up. I'm not about not cutting it up. I'm not trying to convert you to some sort of new religion here. But you can see that this is pretty anti-countercultural, right? The stuff that you guys are learning here is almost borderline anti-American. Not to have a credit card and live debt-free and pay for stuff with cash. It's borderline this close to be pretty different. And so I want you to be prepared for that. At the same time, have an open mind to it. Just maybe we'll start to learn some new things. Okay. Any questions or comments there? Anybody else want to share parents differently or the same? I saw, how about a non-credit card person? Maybe I'm just curious if your parents don't do it, why or whatever. Gail?
So my parents have a credit card that's in my name that they use to pay off like the light bill, but and just like small bills, and they use their money on it, but it's just use my card.
Okay. All right.
Is that not a good idea?
Yeah, I'd say that's not a good idea.
Why?
Well, so, I don't want to get between you and your parents, but at some point, if you choose to want to do that, you want to do it yourself. So suppose that they're doing kind of the credit card game, and I actually know Caleb's parents a little bit, not real well, so take this with I would say this to anybody, I guess is what I'm going to say. They run into some financial problems, and they need to pay for the flat tire because they haven't been following emergency fund and all that. And so they use the card, and they're late with a payment. Whose credit gets hit? Okay. So if you're going to go with that type of program, you need to go it alone and make sure it's you. Don't put your financial future into somebody's hands like that, would be my advice. And again, my parents signed on to my card. I already told you that when I was 16. So it was a similar thing for me. Now, my parents weren't the ones actually charging it. I was using it myself to try to build it up and pay it off every month and that sort of thing. But things can happen. Gambling addictions happen, right? And now all of a sudden, how many of you have heard of people having gambling addictions, friends or family, right? And so now all of a sudden, well, maybe mom hasn't told dad about the gambling thing, and just one more win can make her even. And Caleb's little card here has a $2,000 limit. And all she's got to do is shove it in the machine and withdraw 2,000, sit down to the table, double it up, and she's back to even. Does that sound like a gambling problem potentially? Does that sound like something that can screw up Caleb's credit? Right. So just kind of keep that in your hands and your power if you're going to go that route. And of course, not having it all is another option. Okay. Any other questions or comments there? All right. Let's get into the next video section. That's the first. All right. Pull out a piece of paper. Put your names on it. It's going to be turned in for some credit today. So the discussion question number 1 from your book: what is your reaction to the phrase, the borrower is slave to the lender? How have you seen this in your life? I'll give you a few minutes here to see how that one resonates with you. The borrower is slave to the lender. Maybe you've made some loans to some of your friends or family, and how did that change the relationship? Or did it make you feel a little strange at Thanksgiving dinner? Left off to Taylor. Look at the random number generator then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Brady. No, I see that you're still wrapping up, but what was your feelings of borrower slave to the lender? What was your scene in your life?
Well, I mean, I had older brothers, so I would like borrow money for them and like get stuff in high school.
Okay.
And just beat me up and shit. Pay it back and afterwards, get stuff.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting one. Anybody else? Or relationships that were a little sour after some borrowing, usually this friend at high school or sibling. Well, it can be kind of a little souring. All right, so I'm going to give you a number between 1 and 6. So remember your number. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that number corresponds to 1. So if you want to write this down, you can. 1, the 2's are here, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is your homework exercise for Sunday. And so we're going to explore rent to own. So you guys have seen this type of stuff. We got, this is kind of an old one now, but they're still around a little bit. Troy Aikman and Hulk Hogan, the old rent to own. Your choice of these 2 fine TVs for only $29.99 per week. Right? Rent to own. How many of you have had friends or family, or maybe yourself, friends, family, or yourself have done a rent to own deal? Go get some new furniture, TV. Just one? Just Therese? Oh, come on, some of you know, so probably a few more people. They make all these nice things. We got pretty people that say how good it is to get the new furniture and the new stuff. Well, these rent-to-own deals end up being kind of expensive. So what you need to do for this, and you don't have to do all 6, you just have to do the one I assigned you. And so you're going to find the cost per week, if it's $29.99, the number of weeks, the total cost that you're spending basically on the rent-to-own deal, and then what it would cost you retail. Now, what I don't want you to do, though, is once in a while, these rent-to-own places will have a cash price that they have for the deal, too. They used to not ever do that, but they started doing that a little bit more. I don't even know if it was due to regulations or otherwise. But I want you to go to a different source, like Walmart or Amazon, whatever. But make sure you got the exact same model number. So if it's a laptop, make sure it's got all the same specs, and see what that thing would be retail. And then you're going to look at the difference between what the rent-to-own deal was and what buying it would be. Okay? And then we'll look at your savings, and we'll kind of compare that on Monday. We'll pull these up and kind of share everybody's results. Any questions on that? And then there is also questions that you need to do as part of the homework too. So then you can hit those questions. So that's going to be for the weekend. This thing is just a part of the exercise to see how much money that would be with the difference. Those of you who got the bedroom set or the dining room set, it might be a little harder to find the exact same specification, but just do your best to make it similar, that it's at least a 3-person couch and it's fabric. Try to get as close as you can, but it might be a little harder to get exact specs, unlike this stuff here. So, questions on the exercise? Yeah.
So maybe I did, but do we need to do our own still for the homework?
So the homework, you're just doing your one.
Okay.
Whatever one I assign you. Here's the benefit of coming to class is that the other people are probably going to do all 6. And you guys got to do just one. So that's the benefit. Because the assignment's up and it just shows all 6. But you guys just have to do the one that was assigned to you. Okay. So we're going to get into the third video section. So there's, with this section, there's going to be, you see all these myths that he's doing with the rent-to-own myth and the lottery myth and whatever. You're going to have a persuasive writing exercise. I think I had that due Monday night that goes through these myths. So as you go through, just kind of keep a mental note that's what we'll be doing, is talking about these myths, and you pick one to write in a little more detail about. This homework for the weekend. Finish this video. There's probably only about 5 minutes left or so. And then you've got your rent-to-own thing due Sunday as well. So we'll see you on Monday.